Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Monday module on Community Partner Certification and Account Creation. There's two of us here today to share this module. I'm Jessica Diaz, Rockford, Southwest Oregon.
I'm Jamie Vineyard, the Community Partner Outreach Program Business Team.
And we're going to go over a few things about getting onboarded, if my computer likes me. There we go. So we're going to talk about the steps to getting certified. We're going to go over the background check process, or I guess options, because there are two different ways you can go. And we're going to sort of circle back and talk about primary contacts and why they are so important. I don't have many slides, so we're going to get out of PowerPoint and just open up the Community Partner Requirements document. This is a document that hopefully you have seen before, and if you haven't, then you can definitely get to this on group site. If you are unsure of where to get this document, reach out to your regional outreach coordinator. And you can also always contact the business team or the community.outreach@dhsoha.state.or.us. That's our general inbox. So this guide goes over the different steps. The first step here is to get a contract in place. Now, many of you probably have a contract in place already for your organization, but if you don't, you want to reach out to the business team. That's cp.business@dhsoha.state.or.us, and let us know if you either are a medical provider who bills Medicaid, and then we'll give you something called a provider addendum, or if you are, say, a community-based organization, you don't bill Medicaid in any way, then we would get a volunteer agreement set up. So that's step one. And in fact, that's probably the most linear of the steps, because the rest of these things you can do kind of in any order, although it does help to have them all sort of go in at the same time so we can get you processed quickly. I am going to circle back to the account creation because we're going to just pop that document up on the screen as well and go all the way to our training. So there are two different types of training that you will need to do to get fully onboarded as a community partner able to do OHP assistance. The first one is our OHP training and small test. So we have something called the OHP application assister training. Actually, it often also goes by OHP application and enrollment training. And that is something that we give as in-person sort of classroom style classes. And we also do them at least once a month live via webinar. So if you want to get an updated training schedule, reach out to your regional outreach coordinator or that community outreach email. And we'll set one up for you, or we'll let you know what's coming up soon in your area, or online if that's the option you want to pursue. We follow that up with a sort of self-serve online renewals module video. And then once you've done both of those trainings, you'll be able to take a quiz, a small test, which if you get over 75%, you've passed, you've completed all of your OHP knowledge that you need to know to get up and rolling. Now, we also do have Oregon Health Insurance Marketplace training, and I'm not going to go too much into that because that is actually administered by our very good friends at the Oregon Health Insurance Marketplace, or OHIM, and mainly just point you towards the fact that this document has a link here that will take you to a list of the trainings, all their training requirements. Essentially, you'll either do a short webinar or in-person class, and that gives you enough information to sort of understand what to do when people are over income for OHP and connect people with more resources. Or if you want to become one of those resources and help people in that federally facilitated marketplace, you can take a longer training and get all up and running to do choice counseling, things like that. Whew. So those are all the training requirements. It sounds like a lot, but I think it's 2 days maximum, pretty much, if you add up all the hours. And that's if you want to do the most intensive version. We also have a page here that has some frequently asked questions. I'm not going to go over them because I think we're going to talk about a lot of it in our next step, except I do want to point out that the OHA DHS secure server is a very important tool. Anytime you're sending, say, a driver's license scan any personal information about anyone, whether it's someone who works for an organization or someone you're trying to help with their OHP, we have this secure server, and you can log in on your browser and be able to send mail securely, and that way we know that we're protecting people's private information. And that's probably worth repeating a few times, so we may or may not do that too. All right, gonna switch over to our handy dandy account creation form, and Jamie's going to talk about it while I attempt to navigate it.
Okay, so we'll go over the first part of the page first because for some reason this point is often missed. And so I'll reiterate that the account creation form, the purpose of it is to get you your sister ID assigned to you and your access to the One System. So if you've done all the training, you still need to do this form in order to get that access. So again, this will get you an sister ID and your access to the One System. It's important that your primary contact for your organization be the one to fill out this form for you and turn it into us for a lot of reasons. I mean, most of the time they're going to be the ones that know how to fill this out anyway, what all the fields mean and what information that we need. But also because we want to make sure that the person who oversees the assisters in your location are aware of who is getting access and who they need to be able to support in the future. So please go through them and have them go over this form and fill it out for you, typing in their answers. I also want to reiterate that sometimes when the answers are written in, it's pretty difficult for me to read them. And I would hate to get any information wrong and cause a delay in your access to one or in your getting assigned an sister ID. So please type in your information, and that of course is for the primary contacts to do, but that would be the best way to go about it. Let's see, what is next? Background checks. We could talk a little bit in depth about this. There are two different ways that we can accept a background check. You can provide us a background check that you have had done by another outside agency, as long as it covers all of the, I guess, categories or areas that we require that they pass or that we check in a background check. Those are actually outlined not only in the document that Jessica was going over, but also in the background check section right here of the fillable portion of the form. You see how it says it must cover children, adults, confidential information, secure facilities, finances / financial records, and information technology systems. So it's kind of a wide net that we need to have cast in a background check. As long as the background check agency you're using covers those things, and you can use your own. We would need to know the name of the agency that conducted the background check. So this would not be the name of your organization. This would be who conducted the check on behalf of your organization. And we need to know the exact date that you passed. If you would like us to do a background check for you, we can do that. It's done through our background check unit through the CRIM system. We would need a copy of the front of your ID. I don't necessarily need the back. I know some have given me the back of the ID, but there's nothing back there I can use, so just the front is fine. And your work site location, which, it's part of the account creation form, so it should be on there. But we will run the background check for you. Typically, they've been taking about 6 to 8 weeks. I will say that recently they've been pretty quick, but I'm trying not to hang on to that because it's too good to be true, but they've been super quick. So that is an option too. So those are the two options. And if you use your own background check, by the way, it has to be approved within the last 5 years in order for us to accept it. If not, we would need a new one, a new approval date within the last 5 years, or for us to do our own. Okay, I think that we could probably move to the fillable part and just sort of go over that from here. So there's a place for the date. This really is just from my records. To be honest, it's helpful for me to have when I receive something. But the 2 check boxes up there, this form can be used to modify information of an existing assister or organization, or you can just send me an email. But most of the time, this is used for when you're a new assister and you need to be added to the system. So for this form, I want your first and last name, and it doesn't have to be this, for this one, it doesn't have to be your legal one. It can be what you prefer to be called for this purpose. So, and let's see, the next part, I want to emphasize that we need your work email address. And this is important because one accounts are tied to email addresses. And so we want to have your work email address, the email address that you intend to use to do your work as an assister with the community, so that that can be the official one tied to your one account. And additionally, as a side note, we want these forms only when you are officially working for your organization. So if you have not yet started working for your organization, please wait to turn in these forms. That kind of ties into this. I've received personal email accounts here before, and that's kind of a privacy thing that we worry about if we receive your private email account, because we don't want your private email accounts tied to the work that you do as an assister. And of course, next we want your work phone number, and this is, you know, just in case we need to contact you for, there's various reasons. Usually I think it's probably me that uses them. If I'm missing information, or if I, you know, have a question for you or something like that. I don't often use them. I prefer email, but it's helpful to have phone numbers too. Your work physical address. This will be the place you physically go in and do your work as an assister every day. So not like a corporate headquarters or whatever, but where you actually go and sit down and do work every day. And of course, the city and the zip code.
That helps if I can type.
Jessica's at the wheel here. Okay, your worksite county. This is again where you physically work, and this doesn't mean that you only serve assisters in that county. You can really serve them anywhere. This is really just for the one system. They need to know where you're located so they can enter you in there properly. And of course, the next field is if you do have a specific set of counties that you serve and you want to receive, you know, information about for the collaboratives in those counties, enter that information here, and we'll add it to your profile in our system. And next, of course, your languages that you speak. That way we know, of course, if we need to refer anybody to your organization, we know if they have the proper kind of help for them. Next part, if you want a one account invite or not. Some people want to just have their assister ID so that they could do, so they could call a community partner helpline, for example, and inquire about cases rather than use the one account. You can do that, of course. Most people do have a one account and probably should have a one account, but again, if you don't have a purpose for one, you can check no. But
when in doubt, choose yes, because you may need it for
yes.
reasons that are not immediately apparent to you.
Exactly.
And it's better to have it. You don't have to use it just because you have it.
Right, right. And if for some reason you do check no and change your mind later, again, the quick email to me, it's easy to remedy. The next sections are boxes regarding collaboratives, correct? Collaboratives, yes.
Collaboratives, training,
yeah.
Things like that.
So which communities that you are serving. Of course, there's the homeless, there's the inmates/justice involved, Latino community, LGBTQ, tribal, and if you are an SB 558 assister, you check that box off there. The next section, a little explainer for this one. If it becomes necessary to delete my one account to fix a problem, I give my permission here. Really, what that is used for most of the time is when you begin to have problems creating your account. Most of the time we run into this when people are creating their one account. They get a little bit excited about starting to help their community, so they don't wait until the invitation is received from the one system admins, and they start to create their account, which unfortunately does not grant the proper type of access. It'll try to think that you're creating your private account, and it'll start asking you for your personal information. Now, because one accounts are tied to email addresses, they're not going to be able to send you an invitation if you've already registered your email. So this just gives me permission to say, okay, go ahead and delete what they did, and send them an invitation. So that's really all this means, and I would never do anything like that without your knowledge anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we don't want to just kind of suddenly you try to log in and it's not there. That will never happen, I promise. Okay, we went over the background check information already. So there's just a couple of examples here on where most of the time we see third-party resources that people use. Most of the time is state police, because they're pretty quick at their background checks. But anyway, this is where you would enter in that other agency that did your background check and whether or not they passed and the date they passed. And of course, by saying that they passed their background check, you are assuming liability for this information provided. So in a nutshell, that means that you're telling us that they passed, their background check that you're providing us passed, that they checked all of these categories that are listed right there. And you're telling us you guarantee that they did pass this and they have a clean record for it, they are approved and all that good stuff. So, and if anything, if that information isn't correct, I'm not sure, like,
Yeah.
you know how to put that, but you know, so you would be assuming liability for that information. You're saying that it's true, and you're basically making us a promise about it.
And I think it's also how we don't need a copy of the results.
Yes, exactly.
Because you are
Exactly.
agreeing to this.
Exactly.
Otherwise, we'd have to like get you to track down the
Right.
results, send them to us, and we don't need that,
Exactly.
which
So
is nice.
yeah, so there's no barrier there if we do it that way. Okay, so if you want us to do the background check, this checkbox is for that, saying that you are requesting the Oregon Health Authority to run this sister's background check, and you're attaching a copy of their ID. Really, that's just there because most people will check that box and forget the ID, so I just wanted them to remember that we do need the ID.
And you should never do both.
Right. Well, I
generally
mean,
speaking.
we can, sometimes people will have a background check that's getting ready to be close to 5 years old, so they'll give it to us, but also provide an ID, you know, just
Yeah.
to do both at once, which is fine too. We'll do both if you want. The next section is really handy to have pre-filled if you want, because that's usually not ever changing. So we want to put your organization name down there and the street address for the official street address for the organization. It sometimes is the same as the workplace address from above, sometimes not.
Consistent with my fake.
With your fake location.
But it doesn't have to be the same location.
No. Often they're in another city or even in another state sometimes. Now we ask for the federal tax ID number, mostly for tracking purposes, and by tracking I mean sometimes when I receive these forms, the organization name doesn't match what we were originally given on the contract, and it makes it very difficult to locate. And we want to make sure that we're putting people in the correct place. So I sometimes will have to use the federal tax ID number, which is provided on the contract. And you know, when it fails that I can't find it by the organization name, I can usually find it by the federal tax ID. So that's just kind of one of the reasons. There are a few contractual reasons why we need it too. But the next portion is the contract administrator of your organization, which is essentially going to be the person that originally worked with the contracting process to get set up to begin with, as being a partner with the Oregon Health Plan Community Partner Outreach Program. And the email address for them, a contact phone number. And of course, this next part is probably the one that changes more often and is most important. Rest assured, I always look at this and make sure that the name that I have matches the name that I'm provided on the account creation form. So if that ever changes, I always make the update, unless you tell me not to. But the primary contact, of course, is the person who's basically who oversees or is in charge of all the sisters at your location, at your organization. And essentially, they're going to be the person that I contact if I have a question about their assisters, or if I can't get a hold of an assister. I usually CC them on all the emails just so they're looped in and then they know. If that ever changes, again, you can either check that box on the form and turn this into me with different information, or shoot me an email at the CP Business and I'll update it. Last part here for public display, that is essentially whether or not you want to be listed on OregonHealthcare.gov if people should go there and search for sisters in their area or whatever. You are saying, yes, I want to be listed on that website. Please send people to me, or no, we'd rather just do our own outreach. So check yes or no there. And the last part, of course, I have a contract/agreement in place or have emailed CP Business to initiate the organization contract process. I think that really serves more as a reminder that we need this to be in place before we can proceed with this. But you know, if somebody is unsure and they check no, I might email them back and say, hey, you know, is this already? Have you initiated this? Do you have the paperwork you need? But I think that's self-explanatory. Just check yes or no for that particular process. So.
All right, and you've seen me muddle through trying to fill this out as well.
And if anything doesn't make sense, I'm always willing to answer questions at CP Business. I process these, so I created this really the way it is now, based on the information that I know our one system admins need in order to get you added to the system. And so if you have any questions about any of this part or something that I might not have gone over, please feel free to email me and ask, and I will do my best to answer.
I'm just demoing that if you save it and change the name, I recommend you naming it something so that it aligns with the person. Hopefully, if I've done this right, when I scroll down, yes, it's already pre-filled with all my information, which can be handy.
Right, you can save an original copy with the bottom portion filled out, since that hardly ever changes, and just sort of fill it in as needed. And each time you can save it as a different file name and retain the original file without correcting that, without changing that. So that's handy too. And I do need to receive these as a PDF too. It makes it super easy for me to copy the information from the PDF to the database when it's in the style or in the format of a PDF. Otherwise it gets kind of hard, because I make mistakes too. So if I have to transpose it or type it myself or read handwriting, the mistakes can be made, and I don't want to do that. So if I can just copy and paste all the information from one PDF to the database, it's usually the highest accuracy that way. So
that's a great point. I think in most things in our work life.
Yeah.
So if you absolutely have to print it out to get someone to put their information in, it's better to take that and then type it in than to scan that handwritten document.
I will still process it all, but beware that I am also human. Sometimes it doesn't go as I planned if it's written out and I can't read it.
Yeah, the error rate for all parties goes up when that happens. All right. So that was what we wanted to share today. We're just going to go back over a few of the really most important things, and then we're going to wrap up. Reiterating that background checks have two options. You can do it through our background check unit, which can take anywhere from, it seems, 2 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And we will need a government ID of some sort, scanned and readable, that is sent to us in addition.
So I will say, though, that if they've had a background check through our background check unit before, through CRIMS, it seems to go quicker. FYI.
Nice.
Yeah.
You can also do your own background check process. We recognize that many, if not most, of the community partner organizations we work with have background checks internal to their own staffing that are probably even more rigorous than ours. So just double check that your background check does include all of the necessary topics, categories. And then you can always use that as well. If your background check is older than 5 years, and I guess that applies to whether it was through us or through some other entity.
Yeah, we would need to recheck it even if it was through our background check unit. It would still need to be rechecked if it's older than 5 years.
Yeah, a lot can happen in 5 years, I guess.
Absolutely.
And so that's just something we want to do to maintain security. Reiterating that primary contacts are really important. We don't choose primary contacts, you all do. So there are going to be some times where you don't know your primary contact, and maybe we don't even have a good primary contact if it's been a while since someone at your organization worked with our business team. So it's really important that we have a primary contact who is sort of that main point of contact. I sound silly, but I'm going to repeat it over and over again, with our business team, because then we know that we're getting consistent information. We know that we are processing information that has gone through some level of buy-in at your organization, and that we, for instance, a lot of people, they might think of themselves as working at one organization, but you look at your paychecks, it has another name. If you look at your email address, it has another name. So we want to make sure that we're being consistent in all of our many databases and the very many places that we track this information. So the primary contact is really important. This should be someone who has probably some sort of, if not direct, supervisory, or, you know, they're maybe the person who's been doing that kind of work longest. If you don't have a supervisor who'd be good for that.
Or you may be the only person doing it at your location, so that makes you the primary contact.
You may be your own primary contact, but you may not be, so double checking your organization first. Because all these things have happened where people don't know that the person, you know, working 2 desks down from them is doing the same work, things like that. So yes, primary contact, super important. And then finally, you have to complete the training and you have to complete the background check and account creation process. The Assister ID and the invitation to our online application portal, those are tied to this account creation document and the background check process. If at all possible, type directly into the PDF and save it. Don't print it, don't turn it into another type of file, don't print it out, write into it, scan it in. Things like that can really cause things to get more complicated. And we want only your work information here. When creating your one account, there will be some identity proofing that asks for your personal information.
And your legal name. I know that I said earlier that we can use your preferred name on this form, but when you're creating your account, it will be asking for your legal name at some point. That's just an identity proofing part, so they can make sure you are who you say you are.
That makes sense. And in fact, if the name you put on the account creation document is different than your legal name, it's probably good to give us a heads up about that.
Sure.
We're going to have to deal with that and make sure that everything is consistent there too.
I have been asked about an Assister a time or two, and I had no idea who they were, but it's because I got their legal name, but they were providing me their preferred name, and so I didn't know the preferred name. So it's just nice to be on, you know, the same level so that there's no delay or no barrier in assisting you guys.
Yeah, because this information is used to create your online invitation. It is when you call in and are using all of our specialty resources for community partners. This is how they're going to know that you are someone they can talk to, is they'll look you up on our database. So the more all of this connects and matches and is kept up to date, the better. And anytime anything on this account creation sheet goes, like maybe your email address changes, your name changes, your organization name changes, you're moving organizations, all of these are things that we need to make sure primary contacts are reporting to us in a timely fashion.
Absolutely.
Whew. All right. I think that is everything we are here to go over today. If you have any questions, please reach out to community.outreach@dhsoha.state.or.us, or your Rock, or me, or Jamie. We'll all answer those questions. Thanks so much for joining us.